Hello, I'm Vanita Patnaik. I'm a faculty at the National University of Juridical Sciences, and today I'll be speaking on insurance fraud. Insurance is a way of managing the risk. When you buy insurance, you transfer the cost of potential loss to the insurance company in exchange for a fee known as the premium. Insurance companies invest the funds securely so it can grow and can pay out when there is a claim. The massive size of the industry contributes significantly to the cost of the insurance fraud by providing more opportunities and bigger incentives for committing illegal activities. Fraud affects the lives of innocent people as well as the insurance industry. Insurance fraud has existed ever since the beginning of insurance as a commercial enterprise. It takes many forms and may occur in any areas of insurance. An insurance fraud could either be a hard fraud or a soft fraud. A hard fraud occurs when someone deliberately plans or invents a loss such as a theft of a motor vehicle or setting fire to a property covered by an insurance policy. Soft frauds are more common and include exaggeration of legitimate claims by policyholders. They are also referred to as opportunistic frauds. Insurance companies and their intermediaries or those pretending to be either of them may also perpetrate such frauds. It is important that the fraudulent activities are eliminated from the industry, and it is the duty of all stakeholders to do their bit in dealing with insurance fraud. Now, what is fraud? As per the Black's Law Dictionary, fraud is defined as a knowing misrepresentation of truth or concealment of a material fact to induce another to act to his or her detriment, and when this fraud is committed against an insurer as and when the insured lies on a policy application or fabricates a claim, it is known as insurance fraud. Generally, a dishonest act or behavior through which one person gains or tries to gain an advantage over another, which results in the loss of the victim directly or indirectly, is called as fraud. Under the Penal Code, fraud has not been defined directly under any particular section, but is provided for through punishments of various acts which lead to the commission of fraud. However, sections dealing with cheating, concealment, forgery, counterfeiting, misappropriation, breach of trust cover the same adequately. The Contract Act under Section 17 states fraud as a means and includes any of the acts by a party to a contract with any connivance by or his agents with the intention to deceive another party or his agent or to induce him to enter into a contract. In India, the umbrella enactment consolidating the amended laws relating to the business of insurance is the Insurance Act of 1938. This act also provides under section 2 the meaning of insurer. In reference to contracts in India, fraud has been defined under section 17 of the Indian Contract Act of 1872. The premise for correlation of the Contract Act with insurance policies is that insurance policies are specific contracts in the realm of commercial transactions, which indemnifies against a contingent loss. The consideration of such contracts being the regular premiums paid to the insurer. This definition of fraud under the Contracts Act indicates that insurance fraud can be contemplated as a two-way street. One is where fraud has been committed against the insurer, and the other which has been committed by the insurer. It must be remembered that the existence of the ingredient of intent is necessary for the commission of the fraud. The illegality from the intent is particularly corrosive in the context of insurance, because all insurance contracts are built on the foundation stone of duty of utmost good faith, that is Uberrimae Fidei. This duty is so essential that it pervades throughout the life of the insurance contract. From its pre-inception, the element of deliberateness rooted in the intent vitiates this fundamental duty. Aggressively, apart from the principle of Uberrimae Fidei, there is a separate duty of disclosure vis-a-vis the action of misrepresentation. The insured must adhere to till the contract is firm. This duty should be considered to have drawn inspiration from the principle of Uberrimae Fidei, where an insurance fraud is committed against the insurer. There are generally two forms perpetrated by the claimant: hyperbole or exaggeration of the true claims, false claims. Under the civil remedies of section 19 of the Contract Act states one of the effects that may arise from such fraud. It says that where the consent to the agreement has been caused by fraud, it is voidable at the option of the party who gave the consent to such due cause. Further, the license of the insurer may also be cancelled where it has indulged in fraudulent activities. Penalties may be imposed under various enactments that may be imposed for contravention of and the correlative specific provisions or in default of compliance with the Insurance Act. The Indian insurance sector has recently undergone a major policy and legislative overhaul to keep up with the contemporary commerce and economics. The fresh changes are pro-flexibility and promote investment influx, especially from foreign direct investors. The most dramatic change was the increase in the foreign direct investment cap for the insurance sector from 26% to 49%. There was a basic change of name of the Apex Regulatory Authority for insurance. Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority was changed to Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India from 2014 onwards. Remarkably, along with the nomenclature change, there was a massive legislative change in the form of amendment to the Insurance Act in 2015. The present amendment was in furtherance of the policy of objectives of overhaul, primarily the regulatory flexibility, encouragement of hybrid instruments, greater empowerment of the IRDA, especially to discharge the responsibilities towards ensuring credibility of insurers and their agencies, surveyors and loss assessors, and creation of investment influx in the insurance sector. Interestingly, the measures seem to promote contract certainty, that is, the contract between the insurer and the insured must be accurate, complete and final. This concept had been floated by the insurers as a counter to the trend of exposure to high risk without a legitimate agreement. An indication of this could be the section 45 of the Post Amendment Insurance Act, which states regarding life insurance that as a special provision of the law, the life insurance policies under the provision cannot be called into question on the ground of misstatement after 3 years. This express statutory provision has caused considerable furor amongst the insurers because to them this acts as too short a time to examine a large volume of insurance and claim applications, especially as the crucial problem that besets the life insurance sector is the problem of volume of fraudulent claimants compared to other problems that beleaguer it. Also, it is more intensely affected compared to the other sectors being affected by the same fraudulent claimants. The economics of law of diminishing returns adds fuel to the fire, considering it is impossible to check the tremendous volume of claims for fraud simply because it would be more expensive to investigate each and every claim than to pay most of them up and red flag only the suspicious ones. Some of the remedial measures could be The basic solution seems to lie in the convergence of technology, mathematics, and data analysis, formulation of ethics code, and other strategic regulations. The contemporary initiative by the government includes primarily strengthening existing policies and legislations towards code of conduct and flexibility towards investment. For example, apart from the surge of amendments in 2015 to the Insurance Act, some regulations and guidelines were formulated to contour the amendment intention, like the Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India Regulation of Insurance Business in Special Economic Zones Rules 2015, Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India Health Insurance Regulations 2016, Guidelines on Appointment of Insurance Agents 2015, Guidelines on Indian owned and controlled for insurance intermediaries 2015, and so on and so on. Similarly, the idea of insurance repositories has taken momentum since 2013. IRDA introduced this concept as a dematerialized electronic database for insurance policies to alleviate the problems posed by the issuance and record of insurance policies in physical form only. This database was to be maintained by IRDA certified insurance repositories, that is, companies only. The policyholder would be able to maintain with any of them an electronic account for the purposes of buying and handling, including modification of his or her insurance policies. The idea was to promote ease of business for policyholder in respect of buying, servicing, or handling and claiming. In the present times, insurers have banded together and embraced the idea of insurance repositories as storehouses of data. Repositories for insurers often take the form of fraud repositories, that is, they create and maintain a database of claims and undertake financial forensic investigation through mathematical, statistical, and data analysis tools and patented systems to detect fraudulent claims and investigate accordingly via mathematic and scientific analytical formulae, models, and tools. For example, reportedly recently, some life insurers resorted to such repositories to create a unique policy agreement, screen claims, and detect discrepancies. Fraud in insurance contract. The issue of insurance fraud becomes relevant in the contemporary world in light of the frauds that are committed with the objective to realize the insurance amount. The fraud of insurance could take place in two manners. The first kind of insurance fraud could be committed in the form of concealment of relevant information previous to getting insured. This kind of insurance is mostly prevalent with respect to health insurances. The other kind of insurance fraud could take place by way of misrepresentation of facts post the realization of casualty for which insured had opted the insurance for. This kind of fraud is more prevalent and takes place in almost all kinds of insurance. The frauds could also be committed from the insurer companies by not providing for the insurance amount after the casualty for which the insured had covered himself is genuinely realized. Therefore, the insurance frauds are prevalent from both the ends of the insured people, from the insurer companies by not providing for the insurance amount after the casualty for which the insured had covered himself is genuinely realized. Therefore, the insurance frauds are prevalent from both the ends of the insured people and the insurer companies. The frauds from the ends of the insurer company could also take place with regards to the misrepresentation to the insured at the time of getting the applicant insured. The misrepresentation here could be with respect to the condition and the terms of insurance policy and the claimant wishes to enter. The insurance is a form of contract, and like any other contract, there exist certain conditions. precedent and conditions subsequent for the valid culmination of the contract. This means that the legitimacy of the contract of insurance could be questioned if certain prerequisites to it are not performed or performed with a certain limitations. One of those limitations is the filling of form of insurance for getting oneself insured. If any important considerations of the form are found out to be false, attributing misrepresentation to the insured, then the same shall render the contract voidable. Without any provisions for the insured, it is likely that not the misrepresentation of all forms shall make the contract voidable, but only the terms and conditions which are essential to the contract shall qualify to be the condition precedent, non-performance of which shall render the contract voidable at the disposal of the aggrieved party. Fraudulent misrepresentation. Fraudulent misrepresentation could become actionable in three forms when the statement consists of the following features: falsely made, dishonestly acted upon by the recipient in the sense that it induced him to make the proposed contract. The second ambit is wider than just the deliberately made false statements, but also cover the statements that are made without due care and caution and was later acted upon by the other party under the misconception. The statement shall still qualify to be a misrepresentation even if the party making the statement believed it to be true, but in reality the statement turned to be false. The intention in this regard is irrelevant, and the misrepresentation in the insurance contract shall render the contract voidable at the option of the parties. Fraud in terms of insurance is liberally construed, and the strict constructions of Derry versus Peake cannot be taken as a means of construction. The effect of fraud in terms of insurance renders the contract of insurance voidable at the option of the aggrieved party, and the contract can therefore be reinstated. The party consequently could recover back the consideration that was provided for by the party in pursuance of the contract. Since insurance contract operates slightly differently than a normal course of contract, it is highly certain that the party defrauding could also be the one at loss. The same could happen in a scenario where the fraud was committed without the intention of the party. Therefore, there is a demarcation principle solely with respect to insurance contract, whereby the aggrieved party needs to restore the defrauding party with his part of the consideration and thereby restore him to the status quo. The principle, however, cannot be interpreted to mean that the aggrieved party needs to place back the party in as good position as he was before, and mere giving back all the consideration that the aggrieved party received during the course of contract shall suffice to make the contract reinstateable. The principle has become relevant in the light of the fluctuation of the market prices. The fraudulent party cannot take recourse to the principle to state that the contract is not reinstateable, because replacement to the status quo is impossible due to the fall in the market price. In this situation, the contract shall continue to be voidable at the option of the aggrieved party as long as he is ably returned the consideration he had received during the course of the contract. The misrepresentation needs to be taken in its entire form and not selectively, and therefore fraud cannot be attributed to the parties simply by the virtue of selective reading. Therefore, the meaning in its context and the true meaning of the statement must be construed to conclude misrepresentation. The construction of the misrepresentation in this regards could be pre or post the casualty for which the insurance was undertaken. The misrepresentation in order to realize the insurance amount shall make the contract voidable at the option of the insurer company. The consideration in this regard shall have to be returned to the insured company. The misrepresentation by the insured is also relevant previous to the realization of the casualty and at the time of entering into the insurance contract. This shall entail the entering into the insurance contract via misrepresentation. The same is also true in the context of answering the questions that the insurance companies frame in order to ascertain the eligibility of the person for the purpose of entering into the insurance contract. If the questions that are put forth by the insurer company are wrongly answered by the insured, then the contract shall be voidable and the company shall only be entitled to return the money to the beneficiary to the extent the company is not enriched. This entails that the company's right to retain a portion of the amount that has been paid by the insured to the extent that they have incurred the loss and not to the extent of wrongfully enriching themselves. For the non-disclosures of the fact to qualify as the concealment, the fact should qualify as the material fact to insurance contract. Not all non-disclosures shall qualify to be concealment of the material facts, making the contract voidable. If only a fact material to the insurance contract is suppressed by the contracting parties, would a contract be voidable. The non-disclosure of certain facts should be waived by the insurers to be non-relevant and shall not qualify to be of essence to the contract. The waiver shall also result into waiving of the right to reinstate the insurance contract void ab initio. Any violation of these principles would mean a fraud in the insurance contract. Thank you so very much.